And this is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So this morning we hear, as we've heard before, that the name of God, the essence of God, God, is I am. Now we might be like, if we're talking to God, go, well, wait a minute, I am. How do you spell that? I am. Is there a space between the I and the am? Is the A capital? Right away we want to go into the mind about figuring out, what do you mean this I am? Where I am isn't about figuring it out. It's about opening up and experiencing I am. We're born and created in the image and likeness of God, so we're created in the image and likeness of I am. So for a moment, let's just pause, close our eyes, and just get that sense, I am. Not I am this or I am that. I am more or I am less. But I am. Now, when you think about it, being able to enter into and experience I am is probably one of the most important things we could ever do in our life. Maybe it's the essence of why we're even here. Because experiencing and getting and being the I am versus living in the I am this and I am that and comparing myself and all those kind of things, one, it seems as if that prevents us from entering into this kingdom, and experiencing and being I am enables us to enter into it and live into it. And again, of course, this is a process. So feeding my book addiction, I went to Barnes & Noble a week or so ago, and I like to go in there and sort of like, okay, what books are calling me? Of course, I do lean toward like the spirituality, psychology, and then sometimes I meander over to the sports section where there's golf books. So I go over there to this golf book and I'm looking around and I see this, and then Jack said to Arnie and who said this to who and your mental mind and all that kind of stuff. And I see this book. It's called Golf in the Kingdom. And it's funny because I remember buying that book. It had to be like 15, 20 years ago. And I read bits and parts of it, but then I never really finished it. So I'm looking at the thing and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy this book again. Now, just quickly, the book is about this guy, Michael Murphy, who goes to Scotland. And one thing leads to another where he winds up playing this golf course called Burning Bush. And there's a guy by the name of Chivas Irons, who is the pro. And Chivas Irons is going to give a golf lesson to this guy, a plain golf lesson, and Michael Murphy has this opportunity to play the round of golf with them. So they're going along. Apparently Michael Murphy's a very good golfer, and he taps the ball off the first tee like by accident, puts it back on, and then proceeds to quote-unquote par the hole. And then the next hole, he is just off to the left. He dunks it in the bunker, gets it back on there, and two putts for a 6. And they said, well, what did you have? What did you have, Michael? And he says, well, I had a par on the first hole. Oh, no. No, you tapped that ball when you waggled it. That's a point. That's a stroke. And then what did you have on that hole? And he's like, well, you know what I had. You saw the thing. What did you have? I had a 6. Okay, so he writes it down. You don't have to keep my score. I'll keep it myself. Oh, no. We always keep everybody's score. So now they go to the third hole, and he's thinking, well, okay, like, maybe I'm playing good. I can still birdie this and that and, come back to par. This ball goes into a bush, and he says, should I take it out? Just take an unplayable lie. And Shivas Iron says, no, laddie, play the ball, play it where it lies. And he hits the ball, misses it. Hits the ball and misses it. Hits the ball and misses it. Finally, it comes out like 25 feet. And it's all like got marks on it. It's all kind of damaged. So he gets the ball on the green. He says, could I take this ball out of play and put a new ball on because it's all cut up and everything like that? He said, no, laddie, you play the ball. You started on the tee. You don't replace the ball. So he putts the ball, it goes off to the left because of all the markings, and then he goes to putt like a putt like 6 inches. It hits the back of the cup, bounces back, and stays in the back of the cup. So now he's like out of his mind. And they say, so what did you have? He goes, give me an X. X? No, laddie, no. It's a number. What did you have? Oh, he's like beside himself. I had a 10. Shivasaran says, I think it was an 11. So now he's like, and then Shivasaran puts his arm around on his back and he says, Michael, don't worry about the score. The score is not that important. And so Michael Murphy's going, well, if the score isn't so important, what the heck are you following me around like a hawk for? You know how many shots I had. So he's gone. He has just lost his mind. He's angry, he's frustrated, and as the book goes on, as the round goes on, he starts to discover that what Shiva Sazarian is trying to get him to is to see how attached he is to his performance, to the outcome, and to his score, as if like who he is all wrapped up and tied into the outcome and the score of things, all in his ego. And as time goes on, Shivasarans will put his arm around him and say, do you smell that eucalyptus, laddie? Look at the ocean and the mist coming off the sea. Look at this and look at that, And suddenly, Michael Murphy has this transformation of experiencing and enjoying the experience of just simply being out there and golfing. So the difference between the guy who's freaking out over the 11 and the guy who can enter into the experience of being alive playing golf on the shoreline of Scotland is golfing in the kingdom. Then we have Martha and Mary, right? Martha, you're upset, you're worried about so many things. Who's helping me peel the potatoes? Who's taking care of this? What about the settings? How about the forks, the napkins? Freaking out. And Mary is just there, present to life, present to the sacredness in Jesus. And I thought about this for the first time a couple days ago. What would it have been like Mary being Mary and Martha being Martha, but Martha was the one sitting with Jesus at this time, and Mary was preparing the food, preparing the meal. Somehow I feel like Mary would have been like experiencing peeling the potatoes, enjoying setting the table, maybe whistling, just enjoying and experiencing it. In fact, she might have come out to Jesus and Martha and said, hey, listen, I got everything organized over here. Would you guys like anything? Would you like a little vodka martini? What can I get you? Her whole attitude would have been totally different because she was bringing presence not only to preparing the meal, but then it sort of leads to otherness. So when you look at those two examples, and I know that you get what I'm saying, right? It's like, what is it inside of us that we get so caught up and so wrapped up in the day in and day out of life? And of course, there's bills to pay, there's mortgages, we need to eat, and of course, I know people who have lost people in their families, the people who have died, things that have happened to us that are just painful, and of course, there's no getting around the experience of loss or feeling empty, and yet somehow in the midst of that, there's got to be like an awareness of sort of like an overall bigger picture of our life and who we really are. I really think that when you look at the gospel passage today where there's the unclean spirits, and Lord knows we think of like, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, take away the sins of the world, this, the sin. There's always the sense of sin. And I wonder as time is moving on, we're starting to take a look at like, what is sin? And a lot of times sin is when we're unconscious and we're all immersed in the ego and we're feeling diminished, or we feel like somebody is against us or someone has betrayed us, and we're all bothered by that. And that what Jesus was doing was he was trying to say, you need to die to that self. So is this unclean spirit, we think of that often as if it's like some evil thing, or, and Jesus comes in to have like an exorcism or clean this unclean spirit. I wonder if what Jesus is really doing is there's these things inside of me that ultimately I live my life less than how I want to be. I'm playing small, and I want to be able to open up and to expand the beauty and the majesty of who I really am. And when we look at ourselves in terms of the things that have happened to us, or we identify with the things that we have in our bodies and everything like that, that we're diminishing ourselves. We're not seeing the beauty and the majesty of who we really are. What is that? What is that inside of me that, I want to have things go my way. I want to control that situation, or that person betrayed me and I'm going to hold on to it for the longest time. Why do we do that? What is that inside of us? And we all do it. And maybe the point of it is, I don't know whether we're to totally overcome that, but the idea is that we're working on that. I want to be conscious of what are the things that I hold on to. I want to be conscious of what I identify myself with, and to constantly remind myself that is not who I am. But I've got to work on that. It's not something that comes, like in Buddhism, they'd say that the cause of all suffering is desire, I don't know whether we're ever going to get to the point if we're not going to desire this or want that. And maybe those things in and of themselves are not that bad. But I think it's more of realizing that even if I do get what I want, or I get what I desire, it's not going to really make a difference in my life. It's not going to make a difference in the essence and the being of who I am. You look at like Michelangelo, they say that there was the statue of David in the slab of marble, and Michelangelo just chiseled away and chipped away at all that was not David, and David was released. So David was always in that slab of marble, and he was just chipping away at all that was not David. I like that. I like it. I like to look at like Jesus and coming here to Good Shepherd, that all of us, like, why are we here? What draws us here is that we want to help each other chip away at all that we are not. Chip away at all that makes us kind of small or diminishes how we see ourselves. And to remind each other, look, who you are is this eternal being that will always be. I think the fear of death is really ultimately about the ego going, oh my God, you mean I'm not going to be around anymore? I can't handle that. Because the ego doesn't understand that. You are an eternal being. You think about the people that you have lost in your life. I'm going to use a human imagery, but imagine that they are in Maui and they have a balcony view of the ocean, and they're Zooming you, or they're sending you postcards or letters, and they're saying to you, not only where I'm at is so beautiful and wonderful, but I cannot even describe the sense of peace and wholeness that I experience now. Just to feel that. That really is our faith. That really is what we're saying that we believe. We have to live it. We have to live it, and we have to practice it. We have to develop it in our life. We have to kind of like spend that time going below, going beneath the surface. I thought about like if I had a bunch of towels, or I got all your coats and I layered them on top of me, right? It's almost like we're walking around with a variation of ourselves. It's like, I want to peel all these things off of me and just get into the essence, the purity of who we are. You know what happens to us, right? You ever see like a picture of a baby? They're just pure being. They're present. I don't even know if they're really lonely. They're crying because they want you to give them food or change their diaper or something like that. But for the most part, they're sitting there kicking and wiggling around in the crib. And then what happens to us? We grow up and we develop and we look and we go, wow, that kid's got better sneakers than I do. Oh, that guy got a 94 and I got a 76. And all of a sudden we start to get into this comparing and contrasting. And then things happen to us, right? Where as human beings, we get hurt, we get disappointed, we experience a loss. And I think what happens is all those hurts form and shape our ego. Probably most of us are walking around with a negative ego. I'm not good enough. I'm inadequate. I don't feel like I fit in. There's something wrong with me. And we walk around with that narrative. I mean, probably very few of us walk around with like, I'm God's gift to the world, right? It's more of that negative thing. Not quite enough. And it's those things that cause us to act out and have to control and have to have things go our way or hold on the grudges. It's that part of us that doesn't feel good enough. And I really believe when we listen to the healings in the scripture, Jesus casting out these unclean spirits, Jesus is saying, I rebuke all that you feel is negative about yourself. I rebuke it. Be gone. And allow yourself to enter into just being. Not more or less. Not comparing ourselves to anybody. But just being. Probably one of the greatest gifts we can give the kids here at Good Shepherd. You know, just be yourself. Just be you. You're beautiful just the way you are. And try to help them to not add too much to that slab of marble that has to be chiseled away. There's a story of this old, very wise Cherokee chief. And he's talking to his grandson. He says, "There are two wolves inside of each one of us. There is the wolf that is greedy, that is resentful, that is jealous, that compares, that holds on to grudges, that seeks only for itself. And then there is a wolf of love and compassion and dies to itself to come out and love the other, seeks to build up, seeks to contribute, is willing to understand and to forgive." And the little boy says, "But grandfather, which wolf will win? Which wolf will win?" And the grandfather says, "It depends on which wolf you feed."